Hey guys, how's it going and welcome back. It's time to piss off some more people today. Like I haven't done that enough already. I gotta keep going, it's a good thing. So on my last video, I did a video about, okay, what you're not being told when you buy a 4K TV or a 4K computer monitor, right? There's a lot of stuff that you're not told. Anyway, so one bloke gets on there, starts ragging me, right? And I knew he didn't watch the video all the way because it wasn't until about 3/4 of the way through the video where I actually talked about like Netflix, YouTube, and yes, you can do 4K on a 4K TV via the internet with your smart stuff with Netflix and YouTube, providing the YouTube video guy whose video you're watching actually uploaded that in 4K. And the same with your 4K movies. If you want to watch 4K stuff, it has to be written in 4K. But you also have to have the gear to push 4K. If we're talking Blu-ray movies, right? You have to have 4K. Anyways, long story short, go watch the video. You'll learn a lot. And I'm sure I'm going to piss off a lot more people on that. But I thought I would just further piss off some more people with this video, because I'm about to prove to you some stuff that some of you are probably going to take a little bit of offense to. One of the things I get sick and tired of hearing from people is how they whine about how expensive Mac computers are. They're really not that expensive for what you're getting. We've got a late 2015 Imac 5K Retina computer over here, okay? Now this thing sells for $18.50 at Staples, or not Staples, sorry, Best Buy. It goes on sale for about $1,500. Now yeah, it's an older computer, it's like 5 going on 6, right? But they also have the 2020 version of the same iMac, with a little bit more horsepower, more processor, and twice the video RAM, for about $23.99. Now that's pretty cheap for, you know, a 6-core system that can kick some serious butt, and you can hook up multiple 4K or single 6K displays to the back of these iMacs, which is awesome. Now we have in front of us over here my 31.5-inch screen that sits on my PC primarily, but my Mac is hooked into it because it does have 2 HDMI and a DisplayPort. Now to get 2K resolution from your PC, you got to have at least a 4 gig video card minimum, okay, with a DisplayPort. And then you go to the DisplayPort, and I'm not talking adapters, it's got to be a real DisplayPort cable end to end. Now that gives us 1440p, which is 2K. Now it's a quad HD display. It's about $400 at Walmart. Now Canadian dollars, okay, Canadian. Now my Mac is able to push this thing to 4K. Now, it does come up with an error that barks and says, hey, buddy, recommended here is 1440, not 4K. You know, you really still want to use it? Sure, I want 4K, because I know that my Thunderbolt ports on the back of my Mac are able to push a 6K single signal or dual 4K, and I suffer no performance loss, and still running the 5K at its full out resolution at the same time. And I've proved this to you guys many times, but I got to thinking, I haven't pissed off enough people today. Let's take this a few steps further. So I got to thinking, hardware and software have to work together, right? And software does dictate to hardware quite a bit, to a certain extent though. So I looked and I thought, well, I wonder if LG does the same display but in a 4K. And sure enough, I'm on their website here and I find one. It's a 31.5-inch. Now the part number is 32Gk650f Now this is an IPS HDR 3840 by 2160 display. So I got to thinking, alright, who sells this thing? But let's take a good look at this thing at the same time. There's 5 extra pictures here that are going to show us, oh look, one display port, 2 HDMIs, the same up and down swivel capability stuff, everything that's I got in here, okay? And it's got the speaker output, right, because HDMI puts audio through, and of course your power plug. So that's exactly the same back end. Now the only thing they changed, of course, was the color of the stand on this version on their website. This is the one that I came up and clicked on. They do have an all black one like this. But they changed the bottom foot, but everything else is the same. I'm thinking, alright, so the front bezel's all exactly the same. LG Ultra HD 4K. Now, if we go into the main spec window here, if they let us, it goes into telling us all the other stuff. Super resolution, of course. AMD FreeSync, same as mine. There is an NVIDIA FreeSync model. Now, get this. At 3840 by 2160, the most you're going to get out of this puppy is 60 Hertz. Now, at the 2K resolution native on this display of mine, you actually get 144 Hertz off the PC side at 2K, which is fantastic. But at 4K, we're only going to get 60 Hertz. Now, my Mac native at 5K is 60 Hertz. So I'm thinking, all right, so here's the story. Walmart sells this monitor for $458.98 on their website. 4K Ultra HD, 60 Hertz, 16 by 9. Now, this is the all-black version, of course, which they also have. And I'm like, okay, this is like sick. Like, wow, that's awesome. Anyways, let's get out of here. Display preferences. We're going to do some zoom in, zoom out stuff here for you guys, as best we can anyways. So according to my display preferences, recommended is 2560 by 1440 or lower. That's it. Now, even if I change to a lower hertz range, okay, let's go into advanced. I'm at 144 hertz. Okay. Now, display adapter properties. List all modes. Now, our highest is 2560 by 1440 at 144 hertz, and we can drop it down in hertz. Okay? Not a big deal. In fact, we can drop it as low as 60 hertz. That's as low as it goes. Alright, I'm okay with that. What if we dropped it to 60 hertz? Could we increase the resolution? And survey says, get back here. Survey says nope. We can do 2560 by 1440. That is it. Okay, I have to accept and deal with that. Now, the higher the refresh rate, the better, they say. Okay, whatever. So what's under the hood here? Now, what's under the hood, and I want to zoom in a lot more so you can see more. Okay, so total available graphics memory is 12 gigs. Dedicated video memory, which is my video card. Now, if you saw anything on my Aptron R7 system here, I have an actual video card in here. There's a 4 gig RX 570 series card. But it also is able to use up to 8 gigs of my system memory to give me 12 gigs of video RAM. 12! Ooh! Gameplay is fun, isn't it? Sick. You got that right. Okay. So we know what's under the hood of Kevy's PC for a video card. Now, let's go to the Mac side. Now, I do have my Mac plugged in here, and my Mac has got 2 Thunderbolt ports on the back, so I can do 2 4K displays or 1 6. It is pushing the full 6K because it's only using 1 port. Now, the refresh rate of the 5K display is about 60 Hertz on my Mac, but it gets chopped in half because it's subdividing screens. Now, I don't seem to be losing any game performance. Everything seems to be working just fine and dandy with video games and everything else. But it does have to divide the Hertz in order to make use of each additional monitor. And it'll drop down to as low as about 23, 24 Hertz, which we're going to show you, okay? But what I wanted to do was to go into here for you guys. And we're going to go check out our display preferences here for you. Now, under display preferences, of course, we have the best for the LG, or we can go scaled. And the scale that allows us 3840 by 2160. Wait, that's 4K. That's a 2K display. The box said it was. Watch this. I love doing this for you guys. Boom, baby. Boom. Okay, now, I'm at 4K. The computer just finally came up and said, well, actually, it was the screen. The screen is not currently set to the recommended resolution of 2560 by 1440. Current resolution is 3840 by 2160. Recommended is 2560 by 1440. Do not display this message again or close. I say don't display it again because I don't want to hear it. However, you'll notice something else, and that's I'm knocked down to 30 hertz. Let me zoom in for you guys so you can actually see this. Focus, focus, Danielson. Okay, so I'm knocked down to 30 hertz, and I'm like, okay, well that's not so bad. You know, it divided it in half. I can go to 24 or 25 hertz, which will give a few extra hertz back to my 5K display. That's fine. Doesn't bother me any, right? So, I'm thinking what's going on here and why I can do this is for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a Mac, okay? Now, I'm also going to show you something else. It's probably going to make a few of you guys puke. Above this Mac displays where is it? Oh yeah, it's on my overview. My overview, of course, says that I only have an AMD Radeon R9 M380 2GB video card. Ha 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 ha! I can do this with 2 gigs of video! And I'm going to 4K! Right? How is it that I can do this? Well, what I'm thinking is going on here is simply this. This morning I was on the internet, surfing as I always do, getting into trouble, and I'm on Facebook and I see an ad for Staples for this monitor at $250. I'm like, man, I just paid $400 for this thing. Wait a minute, let's look into this a little bit more. So we click on the ad, we go to the website at Staples, and it turns out it is the exact same monitor except the specs say it's only 1080p. So 1920 by 1080p. Oh, that explains the cheap price. I'm like, oh, thank God. So then I got to thinking, wait a minute, I'm pushing this to 4K off my Mac with 2 gigs of video RAM. I got up to 12 gigs available, even a baseline card at 4 gigs off the display port of my PC. And I can't even go past 2K, yet my Mac will push this to 4K. You know, mind you, it does divide my hertz in half, and rightly so. You got to expect something, right? You're pushing more. And anyhow, so I'm like, this is a software message. I think what LG's done here, because they do actually put out a 4K version of the exact same screen, okay, I think what they've done here was they put a little software error in there because people are paranoid in the pants. Computer manufacturers know this, okay? You guys are just a bunch of scaredy cats, right? I'm not scared of anything when it comes to computers. I'll push the limits. I'm not worried, right? If I blow it up, oh well! But it's not going to blow up because this is actually a 4K display in reality. They put a software message in there so that people who are paranoid will revert back, okay? Now, most Mac people, of course, a lot of them are still paranoid too. But any of us that aren't paranoid, we're going to push it. And I have been pushing this display at 4K off and on just for giggles and fun. And I've been really running it. And it's not getting hurt. Nothing is going wrong. So therefore, I think what's happened here is this is actually a 4K display, even though they marketed it as a 1440. It's the only explanation that I can come up with. And the software glitch that comes up is saying, hey, this is 1440. You're pushing 4K through here. What up? Right? But if you leave the message alone, it'll ignore it. And the message goes away and you can just keep doing your thing. It doesn't hurt anything, right? Now, if you buy the real, legitimate 4K one, as they say, the only difference is they've removed that software error that says, hey, you can't push this to 4K, even though you really shouldn't do this. And it's not saying that you shouldn't do it. It doesn't say damage will occur, which I would expect a message like that. Damage can occur if you continue using this resolution. That I would expect, but we're not getting that error. So, therefore, it's not a problem. And it hasn't been a problem, and it never will be a problem, because it's likely it's just a 4K display with a software program message that when somebody tries to force it to that 4K level, the message will come up and say, hey, the native resolution is this, buddy, not what you're doing. Okay? Now, if there's any truth to upscaling, doesn't happen. Okay, look. If your device can only push out X amount, that's all you're going to get, right? Now, I am an LG fan. My wife is too. We both love LG products, and we've had a lot of LG products over the years. We've never had any issues. Now, back in the old days, you could overdrive monitors because the settings were available. We had enough graphic power to push a CRT screen right over the edge and almost cook the sucker trying to get to higher res. And what would happen was what? It would basically crash out the monitor. And it was a bugger to get things back to normal again, right? In some cases, we actually had to, reformat the computer, take it offline, reformat it, whatever. We had to do something to get our display back up and functional, which was a nightmare. But nowadays, there's safeguards built into Windows, okay? And Windows will not permit you to overdrive a display anymore, obviously, because there's proof right there. It would not allow us to go past the recommended. So on the Windows environment, what the computer sees for a monitor attached, it's saying, that's a 2K display. It's as high as I'm going to push it. But on a Mac, Macs aren't subject to the Windows world, right? We're subject to our Mac world. And the Mac is pushing a 6K signal out of one port, or twin 4s out of the two. Now, I'm only using the one, so I'm actually pushing a 6K signal through. But it finds the monitor and says, this ain't no 6K monitor, Cavi, but it'll do 4, so I'll push it to 4 for you. Okay? And that's exactly what's happening. It pushes it to 4K. My native resolution on this is still 5K Retina display. So I get one display at 5K, one at 4K. Hey, I'm happy, right? So, I want to further this a little bit more, and then we're out of here. Okay? So, so just to make all the paranoid people happy, I'm going to put it back to its native resolution, just to make you all happy. And we're going to get out of here. Now, what we're going to do is going to go back to the PC side. Display port. So it takes those buses offline. And then we're going to do a hot swap. Okay, so this is an LG 27-inch. Yeah, I got the same picture on all my computers. This is an LG 27-inch 1080p display from who? LG! Now, this display, I'll guarantee you're not pushing it harder. Okay? This is what I'm going to show you. I need my Mac mouse back. Did I mention I love rollerblade wheels? They're cool. Anyways, so let's go back in here. No, we don't want the Apple Store. Go away. Preferences. Displays. Alright, LG Full HD display. Woo-hoo! Now this was the original display that came with my PC, by the way, this 27. Now, scaled. Guess what? We get 1600 by 900 or 1080p or 720p. That's all it's going to let us have. It's like, that really sucks. I'm like, yeah. So, but we got 60 hertz, 50 hertz, or 75 hertz. So, let's drop it to 50. Ta-da! We can do that. Let's go to 75. Ta-da! We can do that too. But as far as supported resolutions go, it's not going to allow us to do anything more than 1600 by 900. Okay, which is well below 1920 by 1080. So, 1080p it is, or 720p. Take your pick. You're only going to get one of them. That's it. Okay? So, if a monitor is strictly I know. You're like, Kev, you forgot to zoom in. Okay, well, you know what? Let's do this. I want you to see both monitors in the picture, so let's go back. I know I gotta make everybody happy as best I can. Okay, so right there, we have 1600 by 900. We have 1080 or 720. Let me zoom in much further so that you can really see everything. Wow. Hopefully that's enough. If it's not, sorry. Okay, so that's all we get. That's it. Some monitors are just some monitors. Now, they do make 27-inch displays at higher resolution. LG actually, believe it or not, has a 27-inch 5K display. And it don't look like this. It's pretty close though, but we can't go to 5K because, hey, come on, 1080p. You really think they're going to put the hardware inside this to allow that to go to 5K even on a Mac? That would be stupid. It's enough that they did the 1440 and allowed me to go to 4K on my Mac, but not on my PC. Alright? So, you know, some people say, well, you get what you pay for. Well, sometimes you get a little bit more. In this case, when I bought the LG 31.5-inch display, I got more than what I paid for because I got the ability, even though I chopped my hertz in half, which is not a big deal. Okay, I mean 30 hertz is not, especially on a Mac. I mean, come on, Macs are already fast enough as it is. They're already way faster than PCs. But at 30 hertz, I am not suffering in gameplay, I'm not suffering in anything by having this at 4K, this at 5K. Doesn't bother it, okay? 30 hertz is 30 hertz. I can drop it even lower, okay? But I can't get higher than the 30 hertz split off. It has to divide somewhere. I would think that the PC, logically, even though this is a 2K display, logically with 4 gigs of video RAM, of main video RAM, and an extra 8, give me 12 gigs of video RAM online. My PC doesn't have the gumption to push that 2K display to 4. It should do it just on 4 gigs. But the PC world is a lot different than the Mac world, the way things are handled. Okay? So with 2 gigs of video RAM sitting in my Mac, you can verify it. It comes in 2 configurations, 2 gigs of video or 4 gigs of video. Mine's the 2 gig, which we've shown you, okay? So with 2 gigs of video, there's no way I should be able to push that display to 4K on my Mac. But I can, and it does it, alright? And it has no problem doing it because technically that's a 4K display with an error message. And in the 4K display version, instead of calling it an this Quad HD stuff, right, which is 2K, they call it Ultra HD at 4K, and they allow you to natively go to 4K without the error message coming up. So I'm like, I think somebody botched up in the design team there. And I'm okay with that. I like it when companies mess up and they don't realize it. Or maybe they did realize it, but who knows. They put a message there regardless for the paranoid pansy people to say, okay, I'll put it back to 2K, you know. But at least on a PC, the PC is going to say, no, you're not going any higher than 2K, and that's it. So it is interesting, though. But LG does make a 27-inch 5K display. It's about $1,800, all right, for 5K. But you're going to have a lot of horsepower in a PC to run that 5K display. In the case of a Mac, absolutely not. This computer will run that 5K display without a problem. Too easy. 6K, no problem. Okay? It might start to try and suffer if we get anything higher, though. But facts are facts. You've seen the proof yourself. Okay? So when you start talking about upscaling to 2K, upscaling to 4K, I'm sorry, it doesn't happen, okay? It really doesn't. You can only get as much as you can push through, right, in one sense. But in another sense, the hardware on the other end has to be able to do that, okay? Now, in the case of the 1080p display, this is legit 1080. You are not going to get this any higher. It is not going to happen. The 31.5, technically that is a 4K display, and I have up to 6K of power coming out of one bus line when it's a single use, because the other bus line isn't in use. So it does say, okay, I'm going to push 6, but what can I get at the other end on that monitor? Well, on this it can only do 1080, but on the other one it can do 4K, which is well above what it's supposed to be. But, where is it? Anyways, so when you start talking, and like I said in my last video, you know, a cable and satellite box only put out 1080p. There's no upscaling to 4K. Yeah, you can switch your TV to 4K resolution, 2K resolution. You're not upscaling to 4K. You're not getting 4K. You cannot get 4K without the capability of a 4K signal there and the receiving end saying, yes, I will receive your 4K, even though because you're pushing 4K. You have to push and have a receiver that'll say, okay, I'll do it. In this case, I got the pusher, but this thing is not going to receive that. It's going to say, no, I'm not going to receive more than 1080. It talks back to the computer, says, sorry, I can't do it, man. I'm only going to give you 1080. That's it. That is how the reality of it works. And it's the same with your 4K TVs, your 4K computer monitor, all that stuff. It can only do what it can do, right? Macs can do things that PCs just can't do, okay? And they can do it for a heck of a lot cheaper, too. Obviously, we've proven that here today as well. Anyways, I'm sure I pissed off a lot of people, and I honestly don't care, okay? But this is proof and it's facts, so take it for what it is. There it is. See you later.